Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight is an episode that you want to DVR and you want to watch with your kids. I'll explain in a bit. Tonight, it's America's civil rights history. You know about the great heroes like MLK, you know about Rosa Parks, you know everything you probably need to know or even want to know about the true evils of slavery. You know that it's one of the worst scars on a republic, and you know it still tears us apart. You know all of those things are true, and you know they're right. In essence, when it comes to civil rights, you know that it is a cake. You know this is a cake. No one's trying to convince you that it's anything other than a cake. But tonight, I want to try to add to your understanding of what this cake tastes like, what made it up, what the layers are of this cake, so you can truly understand. Our great country is in trouble, and you have to understand how the cake is made. Our country has done some absolutely horrific things. But it's like this cake, it's yummy. And since it's made by the cake boss, yeah, it's great living by New York. You can call the cake boss and get a good cake. You know then that this cake is pretty much perfect. But is that true? What's true? You have to cut the cake, if I can, and take it out and look at it. You have to see, could I have a plate? You have to see all the layers of this particular cake. So you can see the layers of the past. How is this made up? What layer is good, what layer is bad, and what are the ingredients so we'll know in the future? So things won't happen like that again. But I warn you, some of the images that you're going to see tonight and tomorrow, especially I think tomorrow, will be disturbing. If you have young children, DVR the show, watch it, and then watch it again later with them. But watch it first yourself. We have 400 years to cover, so this is by no means a complete history. It's to get you into it. 400 years to cover, so let's get started. Okay. Hello, America. In case I haven't been clear already, I want you to know this is not the end-all and be-all on civil rights and what happened in America. We have 2 hours and 400 years. We have tonight and tomorrow. The goal is just to open your eyes and show you history like you've never heard or seen it before. Then you have to do your own research. You know, I am not a history teacher, but a good history teacher, I've always felt, will just get you excited about history, get you into the stories, and then make you want to read yourself. Exercise the American knowledge muscle that I told you about yesterday. Thomas Jefferson said, and this is important, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. You cannot take my word for these things tonight. You can't listen to the Huffington Post or anything else. You can't take the words of textbooks. You must do your own homework. This is your country. This is your history. Read, and read people who disagree with each other. Listen to me, read the things I tell you, and then go check it out on your own. Go read somebody who vehemently disagrees. You find the truth. It's imperative for the Republic. Yesterday, talked to you a little bit about manifest destiny and how manifest destiny is a perversion of divine providence and how the 4 major forces, these, commerce, religion, government, and science, they're all good. But when they collude, there is trouble. All of these forces turned against the Native Americans, as we showed you last night, after initially recognizing their sovereignty. Our founders liked the Native Americans. But then we needed land. Government needed to expand. We needed to make money on it. Religion was telling people, well, they're savages. They're savages. They're not quite as whole. They're sons of Noah. Same thing with science. They colluded, all for the goal of making money, or the best for the collective. Well, tonight, I want to take you over here. Let me bring over here on 3. I want to bring you over here. I'm going to bring you into the 17th century. We're going to talk a little bit about slavery. We all learned about slavery in school. We all know the horrors of it. I mean, I remember watching Roots as a kid and thinking, oh my gosh. The fact that whites enslaved blacks in this country, built on the idea of all men being created equal, is beyond hypocritical. We know that. So how did it happen? We know that it's a national tragedy. We also know the treasure that is Abraham Lincoln. We know how it ended with the Civil War. But I asked the other day when we were in these meetings, does anybody know how slavery started? We know the ending. How did it start? I mean, nobody came in and said, hey, everybody, let's have slaves. That doesn't sound like that could happen. The real insidiousness lies in the fact that it all started small and advanced into one of the worst scars in American history and global history. I mean, it's a human atrocity, and it's happened time and time again. At first, slavery wasn't full-blown slavery. In fact, in the early colonial America, it wasn't slavery, it was indentured servitude. Now, what is indentured servitude? Well, indentured servitude is not the same as slavery. I mean, there's some important differences here. In fact, I think it shares many of the same things. Where are we over here? It shares many of the same things that we have in common with today's illegal immigration. I believe that illegal immigration is modern-day slavery. I've said that on the program before, but that's not quite right. Illegal immigration, the way it's happening now, is more like indentured servitude. For instance, if you're an illegal and you're working here in New York, you're barely getting paid enough to rent a bed, not a room, a bed, for 8 hours. Somebody else is going to rent that same bed for the next 8 hours. You have enough time to go sleep in it, and then you got to go back to being at the mercy of your employer. You don't have any real rights. The government's not going to help you. Nobody's going to help you because you don't exist. You're not in the records. In theory, indentured servitude is like that, but indentured servitude promised a light at the end of the tunnel, because after your contract with the master was up, you got what were called at the time freedom dues. That was usually a little bit of land and a gun. Most important part of freedom dues was freedom. Indentured servitude was a common practice throughout the globe at the time. The English, the Spanish, the Portuguese, everybody was using this indentured servitude. It was like slavery, but not quite. And it's not an American problem. It's a human problem that happened all over the world. Now, there were criteria on which people were used as early indentured servants. But here's what's not taught. If I said to you, was it a white man or a black man that was the master and the indentured servant, you would say it was like this. But the criteria at the beginning was not based on color. It was based on creed. It was non-Christians that were used as servants. Colonists didn't identify themselves as white. They identified themselves as Englishmen or Christians. Whites, blacks, you name it. They were all used for this earliest form of slavery. In fact, if an indentured servant broke a contract, they got the same punishment regardless of color. I mean, if this guy was the owner, this guy ran away, same thing as if this guy ran away. It was Christianity. That's how it was. And if you were Christian, you just said, I accept Jesus, you could get out. I honestly don't know why more people didn't say, I accept Jesus. You really didn't want to do it. Now, this is bad, but this isn't slavery. How did it happen? Nudge. A shift, a slight shift, bit by bit. We shifted, we nudged, we moved just a little bit from servitude to slavery. But how? Well, here's Massachusetts, the first colony to legalize and recognize slavery. Other states soon followed. Why? Because it was profitable, like Virginia. Now, do you know who owned the first state-sponsored slave in America? Who owned? Who was this guy? It puts a slave. You know who it was? His name was Anthony Johnson, except he wasn't a white man. He, believe it or not, was a black man. You ever heard that? How did a black man own a black man? Well, let's start with him. Before he was an owner, what was he? He was an indentured servant. He was a black indentured servant, not a slave. He worked in Virginia, 1621. It's recorded in the census. His name was Antonio. It just recorded his first name and his race. Well, he wasn't considered